Hello fellow Earth dwellers, how are you doing? I hope you're good. So in my last video, the Timeline of Internet Horror series, a comment was posted by Spaghetti Bird that said that I missed a crucial part of internet horror, creepypastas, and I completely agree. Now for those unfamiliar, a creepypasta is basically a horror concept that is built to sell itself as a real legend or story. Usually these creepypastas use history and images to back up the story it's trying to sell. Creepypastas almost always originate from a disturbing picture or video, and then people build a collective story around that. In today's video, I want to cover a history of the internet's creepiest of creepypastas and build a timeline of the most popular ones the internet has to offer. I'll try to explain them, show their origins, and give my opinions. So yeah, enjoy. Grab a snack, turn the lights off as we walk down the timeline of creepypastas. Starting with The Rake. The Rake is a really popular creepypasta that centers around a creature that looks like a tall, gray human with no mouth or nose, promptly named The Rake. This creature is described as docile most of the time, but will attack and kill if threatened or messed with. The description of the creature usually say that the rake will stare at people if they are far away, but if you approach or attack it, it will unhinge its mouth and kill and eat you. It's also described as being invincible and unable to experience any physical damage. Often stories revolve around the creature walking in front yards or sneaking into bedrooms. According to the Creepypasta Files website, the rake originated on Reddit, 4chan to be exact. However, the top comment on this exact page states that it originates from a blog named Panda Blog. I've been unable to define the exact post or blog, so its origins are relatively unknown to me. The Rake is an especially creepy one due to its realism. It's a creature that's just barely out of our understanding. Like, the Rake by all accounts could be some weird humanoid creature lurking around with some violent tendencies, and its realism is used to build a really interesting concept. The stories around it are really creepy as well, as it feels really similar to Slenderman or other creatures who just stalk and attack you. The pictures are also really disturbing and add some more realism to the whole thing. Being one of the earliest creepypastas, it's really impressive how detailed and creepy it is. Overall, The Rake uses the fear of the unknown to scare the audience in a pretty captivating way. SpongeBob SquarePants is a universally beloved show, so it's no surprise that there's a creepypasta built around it. Red Mist, also known as Squidward's suicide, is really depressing, so I once again advise you that if you're sensitive to discussions of suicide, don't continue through this one. Red Mist refers to a fake, lost episode that supposedly was going to show Squidward having a bad day, and unfortunately taking his own life at the end. The episode supposedly had some creepy editing choices, like the fish's eyes turning red and realistic. This image was supposedly shown right before that fateful event, which has become synonymous with the story and internet horror as a whole. It's actually made creepier given that the real show has actually referenced suicide in the season 8 episode Are You Happy Now?, with Squidward throwing a rope off screen saying he can't get happy. In this episode, however, he just grabs a birdcage, but it's still a pretty disturbing reference. The image has become somewhat of a staple of internet creepypastas, and it's really easy to see why. Given the show's extreme popularity, a supposed lost episode showing the death of an extremely depressed individual is pretty easy to believe. However, I have absolutely no faith in the idea that this was ever considered as an actual episode. This entry is a really creepy one because of the story around it, because while the image itself is definitely spooky, it's not as scary as the story of Squidward. To my knowledge, the season 12 episode of SpongeBob titled SpongeBob in Random Land actually had a reference to the Red Mist image, showing Squidward's room and then jump scaring the audience with the Red Mist Squidward image. Now, as someone who grew up with SpongeBob, this story really disturbed me in a way that no other creepypasta really did. Because as kids, we all think of Squidward as this mean neighbor attacking the innocent SpongeBob and Patrick, but as we age, we begin to see the human side of him, as human as a squid can be, I mean. And so to have a creepypasta all around him taking his own life is just so disturbing, and I can't believe I'd never heard of it until now. SCP is a weird one to talk about. The basic concept behind SCP is that there's a worldwide organization designed to capture unexplainable entities known as SCPs and then perform research on them. The main appeal of the SCP universe is creating new and interesting creatures to tell stories about. On the SCP Foundation website, there are almost 8 8,000 different SCPs on record, each having unique images, documents, and descriptions of the SCP. It's really impressive how much work goes into this creepypasta, and the different creatures make for a really disturbing world. The first SCP originated on Reddit and was called SCP-173. To give a brief description, 173 is an extremely hostile entity that can only move when a person isn't looking. And if this SCP reaches you, it kills you. The SCP universe has also spawned many games that can be played to experience the cool world that's been created. Overall, SCP is just a really impressive creepypasta. The sheer amount of SCPs out there is a testament to the endless creativity in this community. Now personally, I've never really been in the SCP community. I've never created my own creature, and I've never really interacted with it. But now that I've researched and watched some content around it, I'm enthralled with the sheer magnitude of the whole thing. I get it's old, and over the decade and a half that it's been around, people are going to make a lot of creatures, but something about 8,000 unique SCPs really fascinates me. Overall, SCP is a really cool creepypasta, and it's built a really big and interesting world. Oh boy, we've arrived at the creepypasta that actually caused me to lose some sleep during the making of this video. Jeff the Killer refers to this image of a man who was a supposed serial killer that would sneak into people's homes and murdered them. The image itself isn't actually the thing that scared me. While it is spooky, the story on the Creepypasta Classics wiki is what scared me the most. It tells a story of a kid who woke up in the middle of the night to see eyes staring back at him. This mystery person tells him to go back to sleep, then after the kid screams, the man jumped on him and attempted to murder him with a knife. Home invasion stories always terrify me, and the thought of this guy breaking into my house and trying to kill me is horrifying to me, and it kept me up at night. To my knowledge, Jeff the Killer isn't based on any real murderer, but it's still really realistic. As a whole, the image behind him is really well known and has kind of become a staple of creepypastas around this time, being the one that spooked a lot of us as kids. The original unedited image is actually of unknown origin, and many have tried to discover it, but to my knowledge, they have been unsuccessful. So it adds even more mystery behind the whole thing. Overall, Jeff the Killer is terrifying. What else do I have to say? Probably the most popular creepypasta is Slender Man. It originated from the forum's Something Awful competition, where they wanted to change and add to photographs through any means, to which the winner was a picture of what we now know today as Slender Man. He's a creature who looks like an unnaturally tall human with a suit, a white mask of some sort, and really long arms. Often stories revolve around him stalking people and eventually taking and presumably killing them. Slender Man has a lot of lore behind him, around 200 pages, believe it or not, usually using real-life events and shoehorning Slender in there in some really realistic and unsettling ways. Slender has been made more popular through forums, and most of all, series like Marble Hornets on YouTube. Overall, Slender is a really creepy and interesting creepypasta that I had a lot of fun researching. It's unbelievable how popular he is, and given how creepy it is, it makes sense. Whew, this one hurts on a personal level. Herobrine is a very popular Minecraft-themed creepypasta that revolves around a character who would appear in your world and do some creepy stuff to it. The original post was made on, once again, Reddit, which tells the tale of a player being in a single-player world and encountering another player that they described as having the default skin with no pupils. They show a photo where you can just see a player standing in the fog watching us. They then said that they began to find things in their world that weren't natural, like tunnels and pyramids. Eventually, the player posted online asking if anyone else had a similar experience, where it was supposedly deleted by an account named Herobrine. This post gained decent traction, but the thing that blew this creepypasta into the main Minecraft community was the Brocraft live streams that showed his encounter with Herobrine. Now, as we know today, it wasn't Herobrine. It was actually a retextured painting, but still. Believe it or not, Herobrine has been mentioned by the developers of Minecraft, Notch and Mojang themselves, as with every update they would add the line, "removed Herobrine" in the patch notes as a nod to this popular creepypasta. For some reason, they stopped doing this bit once 1.16, the Nether update, came out. To me, Herobrine isn't as creepy as he used to be. After all, he only exists in a game. At the time, many people jumped on the Herobrine train, making mods and videos, bringing Herobrine into the mainstream. Eventually though, Herobrine became a little too oversaturated. The original story rode on the fear of not being alone when you should be. And once every Minecraft channel started making Herobrine content, it kind of lost that fear and originality that the original story had. Herobrine is probably my introduction to the horror genre as a whole, and I will always love the original post and story. Okay, I originally wasn't going to add this one to the list, but I had to after I heard who made it. Candle Cove is a creepypasta made by Chris Straub, who went on to make the popular analog horror franchise Local 58. And while I didn't love Local 58, I loved how it was made, and when I heard Candle Cove was a precursor to that, taking place loosely in the same universe, I had to check it out. Candle Cove is a story told through a series of forums called Netstalgia forums, between some users claiming that there was a kids' television show that they all remembered but can't find anywhere. It describes some creepy occurrences from the show where, and I'm quoting from Wikipedia, there's a character known as Skin Taker, a skeleton pirate who wears clothing made out of children's skin, and an episode that consists entirely of the puppets flailing and screaming while the main character cries. While I was able to find the original website, I can't find the original post, so there's little to know on my part. The story of Candle Cove is a really interesting one because I myself have had many moments where I remember something fondly from my childhood, but it either doesn't exist or my parents debunk it. So this story is a really interesting telling of a children's program that has some really creepy occurrences. Fun thing about this creepypasta is that it was actually adapted into a TV show called Channel Zero, starring Mark Brendanawicz from Parks and Rec. And it has 4 seasons. Now, I haven't seen it, but the critic reception is pretty decent, so maybe check it out. This was a fun creepypasta to research because I never knew it existed, but I find the story and medium really cool and fascinating. Another popular creepypasta creature is Siren Head, which was created on Tumblr and Twitter by Trevor Henderson. The creature is basically a really tall humanoid thing with sirens for a head. Siren Head usually uses these sirens to make loud noises to draw in prey, and then he kills and eats them. Most of the adaptations usually place him in either a forest or a city of some kind, usually having him tower over the trees and buildings. Now, personally, Siren Head has never been one that particularly scared me. I've always liked the design, but it kinda seems too big to be scary, if you know what I mean. But I'll admit, a few photos actually got me, but mainly when they don't make him too large. And what I mean by that is, I prefer horror creatures to be more personal, like Slender Man or alternates from Mandela Catalog. I've never been a huge fan of big creatures or cosmic horror in general, but if that's your thing, Siren Head is probably a pretty scary creature to you, and that's fine. Like SCP and Slender Man, Siren Head has a decent chunk of games made around him, and I'll be honest, the games are pretty spooky, and I like what they do with the creature. Overall, Siren Head is a really spooky concept, but not one that's particularly scary to me. The Backrooms is a really popular internet creepypasta that, once again, originated on Reddit 4chan. This is what the original image looks like. It shows text accompanied by a creepy liminal space. The image reads, "If you're not careful and you no-clip out of reality in the wrong areas, you'll end up in the backrooms, where it's nothing but the stink of old moist carpet, the madness of mono yellow, the endless background noise of fluorescent lights at maximum hum buzz, and approximately 600 million square miles of randomly segmented, empty rooms to be trapped in. God save you if you hear something wandering around nearby, because it sure as hell has heard you." Now, this alone is no doubt a really creepy story, and it's a really cool concept, but fans of this original image did not stop there. People began creating more levels to the backrooms, using different popular liminal images to create a really expansive world that has thousands of different levels, entities, rules, escapes. Now, my favorite part of the backrooms and the many different games and adaptations that have come out is the different levels and locations you can be in. Liminal spaces have always been fascinating to me, and I love the variety and creepiness of them all. Entities are a really cool idea and can definitely be scary, but personally, I just love the empty spaces and liminality of the whole thing. The Backrooms have left the realm of a niche community on Reddit, however, mostly due to Kane Pixel's series on YouTube. His popular series sparked many other creators to make their own found footage and videos covering the topic of the Backrooms and the many different levels. He's also going to be making a movie soon, so stay tuned for that. Another creepy aspect of the Backrooms is that the first image and poster have both never been identified. We may never know where this original photo came from, leaving more mystery and intrigue around the whole thing. Now, I'm a huge fan of the Backrooms, and I love watching the different found footage videos on YouTube, not just Kane Pixels. So many different creators have made their own interpretations of the Backrooms, and the whole community is a really cool one. But overall, the liminality and the fact that anyone could just fall into this place is terrifying and leads to a really interesting creepypasta. Crow 64 is a YouTube horror ARG made by Adam Butcher. The story follows Adam as he opens a supposedly lost N64 game called Catastrophe Crow. He starts by giving us a history lesson on the game's creator Manfred Lorenz. Then he plays the game, which has some really creepy turns. The story is pretty basic, but it gets darker the deeper you go. The game is basically a telling of Lorenz's life, showing his game development studio and eventually showing his family life, where his daughter falls down a stairs and dies from her injuries, leading Lorenz to jump off a boat. That's the basic story, but there are also so many other channels that give insight into the story. And the ARG begins to take a FNAF lore approach by causing the main solvers to look for names and timelines. MatPat with Game Theory has an excellent video chronicling the events and puzzles that Adam uses to tell a really disturbing story. Some of the puzzles are unbelievable, like for example, on one channel there's an ascending 26-note sequence that corresponds with each letter of the alphabet, and later in the song, you can use the notes to make sentences with the riffs in the song. Like, how did people discover that? Crow 64 is an amazing horror ARG, and I highly enjoyed it. Adam Butcher has also made many other cool one-off horror videos like Internet Story and House Sitting Found Footage, which are so well made and creepy, and they really don't get enough love. House Sitting I think is my favorite thing of his. It's so cool, impressive, and creepy. Go watch it. Crow 64 is a scary creepypasta, but it's way more impressive how much effort went into everything. Well done, Mr. Butcher. Well, that kinda brings us up to today. I know I couldn't cover anywhere close to the amount of creepypastas out there, but I chose the ones that I found most interesting. One thing I noticed while making this video is that a lot of the popular creepypastas were made in the late 2000s and early 2010s, around the beginning of the internet as a whole. And this is a sharp contrast to analog horror that kind of started near the mid-2010s. It was definitely interesting for me to make this video because I didn't really know a lot of these. I definitely knew the photos, but a lot of the stories and backgrounds were completely new to me, and it was really interesting to learn about. If I missed your favorite creepypasta, comment down below and I'll be sure to check it out. I really hope you had a fun time watching this video. I had a lot of fun making it. Have a good day. God bless. Bye. Oh, also subscribe, please.